Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like over-capitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well-organized and well-funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. It's Wednesday and filling in for Ashe today, or maybe Ashe is filling in for Chris. I don't even know how this works, but we've got the one and only Chris Paul. How you doing this morning, brother?
I'm good, man. And Ashe is filling in for me on Friday, so we swapped.
Oh, there we go.
He's the one doing the favor.
So no matter what happens, I've got shows where I've got a 12-hour gap between when Ashe and I have to go at it. We came up with an acronym yesterday. I was going to make a joke that she's mad at me about the acronym we made yesterday for the fourth turning, to understand how the turnings go in sequential order. And it actually wasn't that bad. It's actually more a shot at me than anything, but it's help Ashe understand CannCon. Highs, awakening, unraveling, crisis. Did you ever read the fourth turning?
No, I haven't read it. I'm familiar with some of the theory, but never read the full book.
It's really interesting. I read it in high school and didn't realize that it was way above my intellectual capabilities in high school and still is to this day.
That's funny, man. Yeah, that's how high school is, huh? Like, It's funny that we read in high school some of those like classic books, and then, I mean, not generally the fourth turning, but did you do that as part of your schooling or just by choice?
It was part of my schooling. I went to a Catholic school, and they were pretty like it was a pretty strict regiment, like a pretty intense school. So yeah,
that's kind of cool.
All right. But anyways, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get into today's show, let's go ahead and jump into a word from our sponsors. And first up, we'll talk about our friends over at Save Pulse. Save Pulse is dedicated to keeping you and your family healthy with top quality medications like amoxicillin, azithromycin, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine at unbeatable prices. The streamlined ordering process makes it easy to stock up on all your health essentials. And now, with exciting news about fenbendazole showing promise in cancer research, they proudly offer this alongside antibiotics and viral care meds. Don't wait. Prepare for any health scenario today. Get your supply and stay ahead of the curve with Save Pulse. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/meds and use promo code SAVEHEALTH at checkout to get a 20% discount on orders over $100. All right, here we go. And I'm gonna actually save the next ad for a segment that we're gonna do, because I'm gonna use it in some fashion for that segment. But we will go ahead and talk about. Maybe we'll talk about it. Oh, wait, maybe not. Okay, I lied. All right, we'll save it for the end of the show. I was going to talk about soft disclosure, but I don't have the ad loaded up in the feed there, so I don't know how I'm going to do that if the ad isn't on there. So, all right.
What the heck is happening, Brian?
I don't know. I'm falling apart, man. I'm still jet lagged, dude. I am like big time jet lagged.
From California?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
We flew a red eye back though.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll mess you up.
Yeah, and I couldn't sleep on the plane, and I was doing work, and so I didn't get much sleep. Anyways, guys, if you have not done so yet, please smash that thumbs up, and let's go ahead and jump into the news. First off, let's start with this story from Just the News. Congress collected 30 million lines of phone data in the Trump J6 probe, raising civil liberty concerns. Shocker, raising concerns. I mean, it's a little beyond that, but from Just the News, John Solomon, Jerry Dunleavy, been doing excellent reporting, kind of like the soft disclosure, if you will, of the probes that are going on right now, and laying the foundation for future narratives that we've all been anticipating. And I love this one: 30 million lines of phone data mapping contacts between conservatives and the Trump White House in the name of investigating the J6 Capitol breach. That mountainous collection of phone records were revealed to the FBI. The FBI, led by Christopher Wray, in late 2023 by former Representative Adam Kinzinger. The cache was offered to the Bureau on the eve of the 2024 presidential election as evidence without requiring a warrant, according to an FBI document memorializing the offer. Kinzinger told the FBI that the phone data had been collected by then former Representative Denver Riggleman. I'd never heard of him until just now. Have you?
Really? Oh yeah. He's as anti-Trump and Trump deranged as Adam Kinzinger is.
That's fascinating. What a name. I've never heard of that guy before. So there it is. Former Representative Denver Riggleman, an ex-Republican who was a staffer on the Capitol riot committee and who later helped Hunter Biden's legal team to cast doubt on the laptop belonging to Joe Biden's son. So let me ask you this, Chris. When the J6 committee was going on, was he already a former representative, or was he a representative at that time?
I think that Riggleman was out of office in the second half of the Trump term, but the J6 committee, I think, started in late 2022, if memory serves. So I don't know. I would have to fact check that.
Yeah, see if you could look that up real quick, because I'm wondering if this guy was a congressman at the time and was just, made a. Well, it says he was a staffer on Capitol Hill riot committee. So was he a staffer?
Yeah, he was in Congress. He was in the House from January 3rd, 2019 to January 3rd, 2021. So he only served those 2 years in the second half of the first Trump term.
Okay, so he wasn't actually, so he was a former congressman by the time he was on that committee. Okay.
He was also a former congressman by the time J6 happened.
Yeah. Interesting. So he didn't run for his life, and he wasn't, afraid of the mob and all that other.
He didn't have to hunker down in an office like AOC to evade the rape gang.
Yeah. And the potential bombs that were placed. Man, there's a lot coming out on those bombs, by the way. I was listening to the
pipe bombs.
Yeah, I was reading the Blaze.
How much you love the pipe bombs.
No, well, the reason I love the pipe bombs is because I think it's one of the biggest shams, and I can't wait. I don't love the pipe bombs because,
I'm not saying you're a fan of pipe bombs like you're pro pipe bomb. I mean, you love the narrative.
I do. That is one of my favorite narratives around J6, man. Like, the egg timer was just like the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my life. The only thing funnier than the 17-hour egg timer was the 2020 election to me. I mean, I don't know. Well, actually, I do have a clip here that's a little bit funnier later on in the show. But anyways, so the FBI memo does not reveal whether the Bureau ever took Kinzinger up on the offer to take the data. While Riggleman worked with the Senate Select Committee, he had a contact and was able to obtain toll information, including for the White House route or switchboard numbers via congressional subpoena. I mean, this is a massive concern about how much oversight Congress has at this point. If you're allowed to go in and essentially tap all the data coming out of the White House phone lines. I mean, if it's just the switchboard, okay, I guess, but 30 million lines, it sounds like it went a little deeper than that. Mike Davis of the Article 3 Project told Just the News that, quote, this episode will test the limits of the congressional immunity afforded by the Constitution's speech and debate clause and whether that affords protection to activity that constitutes a criminal conspiracy to violate American civil rights. Mike Howell of the Oversight Project said the J6 committee was an absolute violation of civil rights that far exceeded anything it ever purported to be investigating, and that, quote, they abused their authority to engage in a political mapping exercise to surveil their political opponents. And that's about all I have on this article. Fascinating how all of this is coming out right now. Actually, I did want to highlight this. One last part right here. Riggleman wrote a book in September of 2022 titled The Breach, The Untold Story of the Investigation into January 6th. It sounds like a money laundering thing. In that book, he wrote that, quote, our team analyzed phone numbers that belong to those in the Trump family, rally goers, rally planners, influencers like Mike Flynn, Roger Stone, and Steve Bannon, and many others. So that adds on to, what I was just mentioning right there. If the Trump family is being monitored, if, General Flynn, rally goers and rally planners. I mean, that to me is the worst part out of all of it right there. Just mass surveillance on anybody that went to a Trump rally. We can just access without a warrant.
Yeah, I mean, that's the world we live in, though. All of our information is available somewhere to somebody, right? Everything that we produce in our phones, every interaction we have, including stuff we delete, all of that stuff ends up somewhere accessible to someone. And so then what we're dealing with is the level of oversight that we're comfortable with when it comes to our government. And the idea that the Congress would have access to people's cell phone records on such a widespread basis seems crazy to me. And, that's even ignoring their total illegitimacy, which is just a fact in reality about Congress, particularly during that period. So, one of the things that we've discussed a number of times over the last few years is that so many of these investigations and these indictments and the rest of it seem specifically geared toward getting information they otherwise can't get about what's going on behind the scenes on the other side. And so I would suggest all of this stuff is part of that same package.
Yeah, we already learned about, the eight senators and all that stuff. I think we're going to find out more and more. Meanwhile, going back to the pipes, that data is completely missing, but we got 30 million lines of all the other data that they could ever, shake a fist at. And, but the J6, by the way, Inmet says we got canceled on YouTube, or says you just got canceled on YouTube for talking about that. We did not actually get canceled on YouTube. I had to go and check to make sure that we didn't. But that is pretty funny. Got to be concerned about certain things like that. Even when we're just reporting on a story, you got to be careful about what you say, apparently.
Well, the best thing to do is to not be careful about what you say so that we can actually understand whether or not there are boundaries on these sites and where those boundaries are. Because, I think it's dangerous to go around pretending that these sites are free speech platforms just because they've let us back on or because we're allowed to post on there. It's fine to post on there. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying it's bad to be posting under the assumption that we're on a free speech site when it's not a free speech site. It's better that everybody knows, hey, Twitter's not a free speech site. YouTube's not a free speech site. It's good that we can see more stuff than we used to be able to see there, or we can talk about subjects we used to not be able to talk about. But sometimes that's because those particular topics aren't really that damaging for the regime anymore. It's become safe to talk about them in general. So now we can talk about them on the social media platforms.
I agree with everything you said, except for the part that it's not as damaging to the regime anymore. I think the J6 story, the COVID narrative, and the 2020 election being the most safe and secure election in U.S. history, I think all of that's going to become very relevant again. It's becoming more and more relevant, and it's going to continue to become relevant. And, that's why I just got my YouTube channel back after 4 years and lost about 2/3 of my followers over there. Demonetized, so I have to go, not that they're not allowing me to be monetized, but I have to go through the process again, which For anybody that knows, they send you like this little postcard in the mail, and you have to like put the code that they send you in the mail to make sure you are at like an actual physical address. And it takes you like 6 months to get the mail, and you don't check your mail every day. Half the time I throw away my mail because it's all like, you could be approved for whatever mortgage and all this crap. So it's a nightmare, but it's back. And I'm going to be doing my first live stream back on it this afternoon to see, like Chris was saying, yeah, we can speak freely, but how badly are we shadow banned? How many people are going to get a notification that had notifications on for me 4 years ago that I'm going live? I'm really curious to see this.
Yeah. And are there going to be those cues about what we are pressured not to say, for instance? Because one of the major things through that period of censorship that you just described is the people who remained on those platforms curtailed their speech to stay in line with the platforms. And so you're already not getting the full story if that level of even self-censorship exists.
I agree with you 100%, 100%. And I will not self-censor over there like we did back in the day, once upon a time.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into our next story. This one, I'm curious to get your take on this because I don't know if my take is going to be very popular on this. So I'm going to give it to you first. After
because my takes are always so popular.
I'll let you take the heat first. There you go. Because
right.
I think yours might align with me. I don't know. But let's jump into this. Department of State. The United States has no obligation to host foreigners who wish death on Americans. The State Department continues to identify visa holders who celebrated the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk. Here are just a few examples of aliens who are no longer welcome in the U.S. And this is visa holders, 6 of them so far. Here's an Argentine national who said that Kirk devoted his entire life to spreading racist, xenophobic, misogynistic to burn in hell. Visa revoked. A South African national mocked Americans grieving the loss of Kirk, saying, quote, they're hurting and that the racist rally ended in attempted martyrdom, and alleging that, quote, he was used to astroturf a movement of white nationalist trailer trash. Visa revoked. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, I understand the argument, and I could see both sides here. If these were, obviously, if they're illegal aliens, get them the hell out just because they're illegal aliens. But if you're over here on a visa, I feel like you are entitled to, you've gone through a legal process, not the legal process to become a U.S. citizen, but I feel like you should be afforded some of our constitutional rights, your First Amendment right, for example. If they were coming out and saying like death to America, okay, sure. But to criticize, I don't know. I'm letting you go first on this one.
No, I think that you're right about that. I would rather this sort of thing not. I mean, this is such low grade political rhetoric. This is not all that controversial. This is stuff that we see on Twitter every single day from Americans. Now, these are not Americans. So if you come to another country and you're going to take a politically activist role and try to be inflammatory online, maybe there's not room for that. And I can get down with that. If I went to some country in Europe or some country in Africa or Asia, or I went to Russia and started bad-mouthing Vladimir Putin, I wouldn't expect to be welcomed in that country long-term. And if they asked me to leave, I don't know how inappropriate that is. I'm with you that there is something about this that kind of violates our sense of what we are allowed to do and say in America. And we don't want to create a category of things that we're not allowed to say based on things that foreigners are not allowed to say. So I am 100% with you. This is one of those kind of gray areas. You wonder why something that is A, so non-controversial, and B, so potentially viral would be put out. And maybe that's why it's put out, because this is going to spark these conversations, and maybe we get some resolution. Maybe the American people think about an issue and come to a new position on it. I don't know. Trying to be positive, I guess. But yeah, I'm with you.
It's just like, so you made the comparison of going to Russia and bad mouthing Putin. But this, obviously Charlie Kirk wasn't an elected official.
Sure.
He led a movement. I don't know, man. It's just one of those things, like, and hopefully this gets challenged. I would love clarification all the way up to the Supreme Court about where you are afforded, the constitutional rights. Now, our founders said that they were rights, instilled by God, right? These are rights from God. So that's just one of those things. I don't know, man. Don't know how I feel about this story. And like you said, the logic that they're using to justify this is just like absurd. I don't know.
They might just be inviting the legal challenge that you described.
That's what I'm thinking.
And I think that that's fine. I want to see those processes play out so that we have some understanding generally of where these legal boundaries are.
Because we've seen lots of cases where illegals have done things like burning the flag, and obviously President Trump made that, an enhancer if you are burning the flag to incite violence or, in the act of committing a crime. He made an enhancer. It's not necessarily on its face illegal because SCOTUS has already ruled that that's free speech. But yeah, that could be the way to get this there, because we know there's illegal aliens all over the place that disparage America. There's people here on visas that hate America openly, talk about how awful America is and all this stuff. And that's not most visa holders here go about their lives and do whatever.
Sure.
So that is interesting that if they are doing that specifically to try and invoke a legal challenge where we can get clarification on this, and then that will open up the door. Depending on how, the courts ruled, that'll open the door to, pursue it further and go after some of the others that are doing more heinous things than just attacking an assassination and whatever.
Has there been significant blowback from this online? Like, are Democrats, I wonder if people who are usually pro censorship or who were all for censoring us, for instance, are actually upset about this.
So you have J. Michael Waller here who's saying, keep up the good work. America is cheering for you. He wrote the book, Big Intel, pretty good book. I've read it. Robbie Starbuck, keep up the great work.
But this is one of those things where the algorithm is like feeding
showing
you all
me what I want to see. Right. Yep.
Yeah.
They're showing me what they think I want to see. And I'm, it is what it is. Yeah. I haven't watched this. What does it say? Trump. I haven't seen this by Aaron Rupar. Let's just check this out real quick.
Law enforcement fired sniper rifles at ICE agents and me, but I made a turn at a good time. I turned to the right. Charlie couldn't believe it, actually. He said, how the hell did you make that turn? I said, I don't know.
So President Trump awarded Charlie Kirk the Medal of Freedom yesterday. I don't have any clips from that, but there's been a lot of Charlie Kirk stuff in the administration. I want to play this clip here. Scott Bessent talking about using Charlie Kirk's death here to go after the funding behind Antifa and some of these leftist organizations, which, again, are they using this as a vehicle to get there? I don't know. I didn't think they needed this to be a vehicle to get there, but it's pretty interesting. Check this out.
Stephen Miller said something similar when JD hosted the show on the Monday after he was assassinated. And Treasury, I come to find out, coming to D.C., that Treasury has taken an active role in an aspect of this dismantling of the financial networks that are supporting some of these radical left violent groups. Share with what you can. I know it's an ongoing process.
So it's an ongoing process, and I will tell you that after 9/11, Treasury became the driving force behind tracking down the networks of terrorist organizations, how they were financed, how could this have happened on U.S. soil with these international terrorist organizations? Where did the money come from? Who were the ultimate funders? And that was on the international side. And Andrew, I will tell you that Charlie's death is like a domestic 9/11, that we are going to find. It has alerted us to what Charlie knew, that these organizations are working within our borders. And look, we believe people have a right to free speech. They have a right to organize. They have a right to protest, but they have to do it peacefully. They cannot embrace violence, and we have seen it. We've seen it since the terrible day 2 years ago, the anti-Semitism and the bias that came out after October 7th, 2023. And many of these organizations have been financed by nonprofits, and it's going to stop. And we are going to, as they always say, follow the money. When you see these groups where all the signs match, they have hundreds of the same umbrellas that they're using. After they cause the mayhem, they have the same lasers that they're using to blind our police force. How are they constructed? Because this takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of organization, and we are going to do that. We have started to compile lists, put together networks, and there's a long record here. And we don't know how much of the support's coming in from overseas. We don't know how much being supported by U.S. nonprofits, C3s that give money to C4s. But this is mission critical for us now, just as after 9/11 and Osama bin Laden, the ultimate culprit, was captured. We are operationalizing this here at Treasury, and we are going to track down who is responsible for this. So Charlie's death has set this off.
All right, we can end it right there. I love the initiative. I'm not a huge fan of the vehicle to get there, but we've talked ad nauseum on this platform about the NGO corruption, the laundering of money sent overseas, the smurfing, and all that stuff. And again, if Charlie Kirk's death is what pushes the needle in our favor into getting these investigations, I'm all for it. But I mean, that's what it took. It wasn't the COVID propaganda that was thrown out at us, the 2020 election. And I mean, here we are.
Yeah, it's weird to describe things as 9/11s. So,
especially when you're comparing the death of one individual, granted he was, a huge figure, to the death of like 2,400 on 9/11.
I think it was more like 3,000. I mean, that's always the number that they kind of go to. Yeah. And I mean, we were told that the paragliding go-kart incident was Israel's 9/11. So there's a lot of and we were told, by the way, that COVID, as the COVID deaths would mount on our television screens, they would say, this is as big as 10 9/11s. This is as big as 20 9/11s. And then they had to move to like college sports arenas and football stadiums.
Yeah. 2,977. 2,753 in New York City. And then, of course, the people that were on the planes. I didn't like the Scott Besson talking about Osama bin Laden being the ultimate culprit after watching Codex. I just laugh when I hear that, because not even the government has said that it's bin Laden that did it.
Well, yeah. And I mean, the unfortunate thing is, and I don't know how long we can continue excusing this stuff for, but we have a situation where even the good guys, quote unquote, are continually speaking only in the framework of the central narrative. Now, maybe that's necessary to connect with people, and I'm not opposed to that argument. I get it. But I think whenever that happens, it's worth taking note of, so that we can say to everyone around us, and I mean, our audience should be doing the same thing. Hey, that's not actually how that is, because we can't reset the whole picture, which is what we need to do if we continue to allow all these little pieces, which aren't actually, some of these aren't little pieces, to just continue being the way we were told they were, even though we know they're not that way.
I think, because that was my same thought process as well, is that Scott Besson sounds like a absolute total normie talking on this show. And I think for starters, he might be. I mean, we don't know how, he's the Secretary of Treasury. We don't know how up to speed he is on a lot of these things. But at the same time, you also have to look at the audience that he's talking to, and does he lose their attention if he goes into, well, it wasn't bin Laden, I don't know.
Well, whose responsibility would it be for that audience to still be in that mindset? And I would say that the responsibility lies squarely with Turning Point USA, who have not advanced their audience's understanding of what's going on in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it seemed like that might have been one of the moves that Charlie Kirk was moving, the direction that he was moving in, especially regarding Israel, mainly regarding Israel, with his questioning of the October 7th narrative. Were they given a stand down order and all that? And of course, Besant propped that back up, with the anti-Semitism remark, invoking anti-Semitism. That's one of the things that disturbs me the most whenever they invoke that as justification for, the things.
Anything.
Yeah, there's so much more beyond anti-Semitism that you can use to justify a lot of the actions that they're taking right now. But it always seems to be the one they go back to. And a lot of people, obviously point that to the influence of the Israeli lobby, Adelson, which I loved President Trump kind of putting her on the spot yesterday or on Monday. That was pretty epic. All right. Anything else on that?
No, let's keep going.
All right, let's keep moving. Just the news right here. Love this story because it's going to segue perfectly into the next one. Just the news. Doge says it's created $210 billion in taxpayer savings. Roughly 30% of this total is detailed in Doge's wall of receipts. I love the wall of receipts. I know John's tracking this a lot better than I am, so I'll defer to him if he covers this at all. But it says it lists specific actions such as the termination of 13,440 contracts worth approximately $61 billion.
Wow.
15,887 grants worth $49 billion. That's free money. That's literally free money. And 264 leases worth $113 million. The remaining savings are unitemized, with Doge noting that full documentation is delayed due to regulatory requirements and lags in public databases like the Federal Procurement Data System. Approximately 154,000 federal employees took the buyout offers from the Trump administration, the fork in the road. And it says they face legal challenges throughout the whole way, but it was upheld from the Office of Personnel Management, called it a dignified and generous departure. I mean, you got 8 months of back pay. I feel bad for the people that didn't take it. Well, I don't really feel bad. Well, I kind of do feel bad for them. That's a tough one,
It's a tough one.
You feel bad for them because they're, they didn't know that their job was completely well, maybe they did. Maybe they did. Their job was completely unnecessary.
I said to John on Saturday, the government basically canceled my former career. And that's true for millions and millions of people. And they did it for a virus that may not have existed and certainly did not require us all to stay home and close our businesses and for families to lose their homes and the rest of it. So the level of sympathy I'm capable of feeling for this is very low.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of us were canceled. I mean, without even knowing that we were canceled, massive drops in revenue. And of course they gave us our little handouts, our little $3,000 here and there, which, by the way, it's a loan that you're paying back over the next rest of your life. I did the math on this one time, and the $3,000 or $6,000, whatever it came out to, equated to almost a $45,000 loan. Like when you pay off the loan with the interest on it via taxes, the amount that the taxpayers are burdened with, it was an absolute joke. So yeah, that's a good point. It says, furthering the Trump admin's taxpayer savings efforts, Trump's OMB director, Russ Vought, is seizing the opportunity of the opportunity of the government shutdown to initiate reduction in force operations. On October 10th, Vought posted on X that, quote, the RIFs have started. A subsequent court filing on October 11th detailed over 4,000 jobs cut across agencies such as Homeland Security, Education, Energy, Health, Human Services, and of course, Treasury. And that leads us to this story here that I couldn't care any less about, but I'm going to cover it anyways. Senate fails to advance GOP funding bill for the 8th time as the shutdown drags on. Couldn't care less. Keep it shut down. I do have two clips I want to play about the shutdown because I do care about our military, and I think that they need to be paid. As somebody that was in the military on the precipice of, or on the brink of a shutdown, I should say. We were worried about this. I'll admit we were worried about this. A lot of us were like, we're not showing up if we're not being paid, because we can't go into forbearance on our rent or anything like that. So check this out. This is Speaker Johnson.
How do you feel?
Oh no, this is Fume. Not Fume. What's her name? Yeah, Fume, right?
How do you feel about these paychecks going out during the shutdown? I don't think anyone's opposed to people being paid, but people look at this and say this could actually extend the shutdown because it takes out some of the pressure points that might exist that would lead Democrats and Republicans to come together.
Oh, you know what? Of course I want our military paid. Of course I want federal law enforcement officers to be paid. There's a way to do that. I'm an appropriator. We should have passed appropriations bills. There's a way to run a government, and this is not the way to run a government.
How do you feel?
We should have passed appropriations. What the heck do you think they're trying to do? Not that I want them to pass appropriations. They're really mad about this one because that is their only bargaining chip, because that is what they'll run to the media, and they'll tell the media, because they know that that's something that conservatives are going to look at and be like, oh my gosh, Trump isn't paying the military. This is the worst thing ever. He's not paying federal law enforcement. These guys are out there risking their lives every day, and the Republicans aren't paying them. And now that Trump is like, you know what, they have, R&D money left over, which, by the way, what the hell, that's enough to pay the military. Yeah, we're going to take care of it. They don't want that. They want that as a bargaining chip to throw in their face and say, if you don't fund this, the military's not getting paid. And it's such a joke, man.
Yeah, Trump actually mentioned the other day that he would have private donors pay them if that was necessary too. Madeline Dean there talking about how she's an appropriator. Sounds like when George Bush told us he was the decider. The funny thing about the Congress and the way the system has been for so long is that they would pass a law that would set up an agency, give that agency a project, and then give that project funding. And that would mean that that project has to be carried out by members of the executive branch. And that's not how it's supposed to work. It turns out this actually is the way to run a government. This is not the way they have been running the government, but it is the right way to run the government. So sorry, Madeline Dean, you're shit out of luck.
I gave some misinformation yesterday. Today, I believe, is the 2 weeks, or was it yesterday? Was yesterday 2 weeks of the shutdown?
Man, the 30th was a Tuesday. So yes.
Okay. So I did give good information. I was looking at let me pull it back up because I forgot to even point that out. It's your favorite thing about all of this. Hold on, where'd it go? I got to pull it back up. It's your favorite thing, Chris. You were the one that pointed out your little shutdown clock over there.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, man. Look at that. It's counting by
down to the second. Down to the second. This is as propaganda as not just the COVID, but the what is it? The 15 minutes till midnight, or the
doomsday clock.
Yes.
Yeah. Gosh, man, who sits there watching that, embracing that drama? Like, I can't believe it's been 13 days, 8 hours, 41 minutes, and 31 seconds.
That was like the COVID tickers that were going up by the single digit increments, the U.S. debt clock. Yep. The U.S. debt clock that goes up by the dollar amount so fast. Like if you want to stare at something that's going to scare the shit out of you, the debt clock should be the thing that you're staring at. Like that would be propaganda that I would be all for. Like right underneath that government shutdown clock should be the U.S. debt clock. Let's make that a thing, CNN. Probably not though. Speaking of which, I saw a great post today. I don't even remember who made it, but they said, if you're still paying taxes, the government isn't shut down. And I was like, it's a great point, man. That is a great point. Speaker Johnson did issue not a response directly to Madeline Dean, but generally about the military. We'll check that out.
Look, my understanding of this is they have every right to move the funds around, duly appropriated dollars from Congress to the Department of Defense. There were some R&D accounts that had not been spent, and that's my understanding is that's the money that's being used to pay the troops right now. If the Democrats want to go to court and challenge troops being paid, bring it, okay? I'm grateful for a commander-in-chief who understands the priorities of the country, the necessity of national defense, and the urgency that we all feel and have voted for 8 times. Republicans have voted in Congress 8 times now between House and Senate to fund the troops and pay federal workers in all these essential jobs and agencies, because we understand the necessity of that. Meanwhile, the Democrats voted 8 times to block their paychecks. I'm grateful we have a president who is willing to step up and do the right thing. Thank y'all so much.
So am I, but I love keep it shut down, man. Take that bargaining chip off the table. Let Russ Vought be the bull in the china shop. Go in there, wreck house, clear it out, and I don't know.
There's supposed to be more coming on Friday too.
Are there?
Yeah.
Hell yes. More. More. All right. I want to play this clip here because this will segue. So when I was out in California, I noticed something, and it was really concerning to me. I was like laughing my ass off as I'm watching this because they're melting down over the Prop 50 vote out there. So let's play this clip here from CNN first, talking about the redistricting and how Republicans are going to be stronger in 2026, apparently, until they steal elections just across the board.
Actually represents pretty accurately, mathematically, how the country's divided over the question of the presidency. But if you look at this is what the party pickups would be for congressional districts. Republicans, 5. Missouri, 1. North Carolina, 1. Ohio, 2 or 3. Indiana, 1 or 2. Florida, still discussion down there, but that could be another gold mine for them if they tipped it even further their way. Kansas, 1. New Hampshire, 1. And Nebraska. Democrats, Utah, California, Maryland. Look at this. If you offset California and Texas, Missouri and Utah, North Carolina and Maryland, everything left over is an advantage to the Republicans. And don't forget, the Supreme Court is considering what could really be the end of the Voting Rights Act, which would protect minority groups. So you don't have a state that's half black, for example, that elects only 1 congressional member and everybody else goes to the Republicans that would represent that population in some way. So if that is gutted, Democrats could lose 19 seats. This would be a huge amount. But this is also a measure of how much the White House is concerned about this, because Donald Trump knows if the Democrats get the House again, there could be new investigations just like last time. There could be a new impeachment. There could be a lot of impediment to these plans that right now the Republicans in the House and Senate are letting run like a freight train.
Well, everything's going to be on the up and up, though, because now we've got Liberty Vote. So I'm not worried about fake and gay elections anymore. Tongue in cheek, totally. Oh, so yeah, as he references there, the Voting Rights Act is being heard. I think it's going before the Supreme Court right now as we speak. So that'll be interesting. It's going to gut the Voting Rights Act because you have a half black state that is only 1 black representative. What they fail to mention is that like majorities of that black population is all consolidated into, metropolitan areas, major urban areas, and other things like that. So you're not going to be able to draw the lines like in Illinois. Have you ever seen the Illinois district lines? Like
it's all absurd. Yeah.
They'll literally have like 2 major cities and then like a little line going right down the highway connecting these 2 major cities so that they can, gerrymander the vote there. We've talked about this a lot on this show. I've done the math, like going back and looking at presidential election percentages, the number of Republicans versus conservative, and then comparing that percentage to the percentage of representation in that state. And all of the red states, almost all of them, are usually single-digit differences between the percentage of Republican representatives to Democrats versus Republicans to Democrats in presidential elections. It's usually within single digits. You go to the Democrat states and it's like 30% differences between, there's 40% Republicans, but there's only 8% representation in Congress. I think California was like 20% difference between the numbers there. And so like, I don't understand how these absolute morons look at that and they're like, oh yeah, it's Republicans that are gerrymandering now. It's absurd.
I'm 100% with you that it's absurd. I don't know what the solution to that problem is because, the red states that are gaining this advantage, is there any reason to have faith that those congressmen will then be legitimate and then serving their constituents' interests in Congress? I don't see any reason to believe that.
No, absolutely not. There's no way in hell. That is one of the things that, I mean, that just pisses me off. Get rid of Citizens United, get rid of corporate PACs and super PACs and all that stuff. But that's a discussion for why we vote. So that was kind of leading to this here. This is from Center Square, California. Millions of dollars spent on redistricting commercials. Now, I was just out in California, and I was out there Saturday and Sunday, and I, was trying to watch, some of the football that was going on Sunday. I watched my Gators play on Saturday, and because I was over there, I got local programming, so my local commercials and everything that I was watching. Man, Prop 50, vote no, or vote, was it yes? Yeah, vote yes on Prop 50 commercials were everywhere. Every other commercial, I swear, I never saw one vote no. Now, keep in mind, I'm in San Francisco, which is, as blue as the ocean, allegedly. Yeah. It says here, some of that money is paying for the new pro Proposition 50 advertising campaign paid for by billionaire Tom Steyer. Part of Steyer's Stick It to Trump campaign is encouraging California voters to vote yes on Prop 50 to pick up 5 more Democratic seats in the U.S. House. Steyer now announced Prop 50 campaign. Check. All right. Did you guys lose me or did Chris?
It was my
All right.
Sorry.
No, I think it was mine.
Really?
I think it was mine. I've got the low bandwidth bar. I got to call my cable provider. It's been pretty crappy the last couple of days.
Weird.
So, all right. Let's get back to that story. So I don't know where it left off, but he's spending $12 million on the pro Prop 50 campaign. There is somebody allegedly, because I didn't see this while I was over there, campaign ads against Prop 50 are paid for in large part by California billionaire Charles Thomas Munger Jr. Munger's contributed more than $32 million to the Project Voters First committee, which opposes the proposition.
So Munger, I think, is the son of Warren Buffett's partner.
He is. I don't know. I didn't know that. I know he's with Berkshire Hathaway. And
Charlie Munger, his dad, is like the other half of that.
Yeah, I wonder why. I mean, obviously, I guess they're conservative, and they don't want more Democrat control over California, even though it's already hugely disproportional. I wrote an article about that for Gateway. I should have had that article up because I have the numbers. Let me look that up real quick. I don't know. Do you want to talk about that? You're a California guy.
I mean, California's elections are fake. So what does it mean that a proposition is on the ballot? The proposition thing on California ballots was kind of something that I spent time on. Even when I was still in that mindset and voting for Democrats, it still seemed like a ridiculous way to be doing things because it takes all the responsibility away from the so-called elected representatives. And then all you have to do is steal one election. No one is ever accountable. And by that, I mean, for the ballot measure, you rig and steal that election on the ballot measure. No one can ever be held accountable for that because the voters are told, well, you guys chose this. And then, of course, they advertise it to the rest of the nation. They take California's megaphone, the control over the media, or the influence over the media, I should say, and project to the rest of the nation, this is the way that things should be done. Look at all these people who agree with it. This is our biggest state. Tens of millions of people agree that this is how it should be done. That's always been toxic.
So here's the article I wrote. I said, and this is just a snippet from it. In California, representation is 43-9 in favor of Democrats, 83%, despite only 58% of voters casting a vote for Kamala Harris. So that's a difference of what, 25%?
Yeah, 25%. and that's with the rigged election returns.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Texas is split 25-13 in favor of Republicans, 66%. Unlike New York, California, and Massachusetts, Texas representation in Congress is much more in line with the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. President Trump received 56% of the vote, just 10 points less than the Republican Party's representation. California is overrepresented by 25% and New York by 17%. Massachusetts is overrepresented by 36%. When compared with voter turnout. That's actually the next line I got from you. Massachusetts isn't an outlier in New England. The Northeast region has 21 representatives divided among 6 states. None of them are Republican.
Mm-hmm.
I got that from
That's
you,
crazy.
actually.
Yeah, it's nuts how they've just totally walled that off. But, they would say the same thing is true for the Deep South or the, Northern Midwest and West. So.
Yeah. Well, again, like I was saying, while I was over there, I didn't see any anti, prop vote no on Prop 50 ads while we were over there. But meanwhile, California is back up to the same thing. Joe Hoff wrote this over the weekend, and I saw this all over social media. Unfortunately, I was in California, so I didn't get a chance to. I should have investigated this if I wasn't running around like a chicken with my head cut off. The whole entire trip, I was in a car with 6 other people, 7 total. Yeah, it was my wife's family. And thankfully, it was a divide of like conservatives versus like my in-laws that were the only liberals. So it wasn't too bad. But yeah, so this went on like they've got the same thing they did in the Gavin Newsom recall race. Remember that? Where when you send your ballot back in, like if you get a mail-in ballot, you can literally look and see how you voted on that ballot and then just, throw it away if it doesn't align with what your desired outcome is.
Yeah, they had that in the 2020 election as well. And then, of course, the proliferation of mail-in ballots. The thing that I actually was censored for, the California Secretary of State used one of the social media portals with that PMK Knickerbocker, I think they're called, or SDK Knickerbocker, the PR firm that works with Democrat campaigns. They had me censored because I was on a video talking about how the California Secretary of State had changed my voter registration to permanent mail-in ballot only. And that was when they just sent all the mail-in ballots out to everyone in 2020. And I knew countless people who were getting multiple ballots in their mailbox, not just their ballot, but everybody that had ever been registered at that address, some people who had never been registered at that address. And I always speculated, and can't substantiate this, unfortunately, but, there was this big program of the prepaid cards going out to supplement people's income who were taken out of work by the lockdowns. And there were stories about how these were collected in apartment buildings, for instance. Like they would know where these things go. They would collect all these prepaid cards. And then there were like lines out the door, people going on shopping sprees on Rodeo Drive, people who would not normally be shopping on Rodeo Drive. And then a few months later, these were all like Black Lives Matter, Antifa activists. And then a few months later, we have the same thing with the ballots. It seemed like a practice run for the ballot collection that would happen later on. And, you put out millions of extra ballots. California's elections are totally fake, but just the mail-in ballot thing alone is enough.
Yeah, I went through, I had a whistleblower following the 2020 election that was a veteran that was, down and out and was going through homeless shelters in Colorado. And he had reached out to me and was telling me about, a couple of the shelters that he was going to in Denver. He would bounce around from shelter to shelter. Almost all of them had, a room essentially where you could go in there and just grab as many mail-in ballots as you wanted and fill them out and then send them off. And, they would do it under the guise of, here's one ballot for you. If you want to cast a mail-in vote, from the homeless shelter as your address. Yeah, it's a massive problem, man. This is something that has to be done. The prepaid card thing is interesting because that sounds like the investigation that Besant is leading as well into who's funding, these operations.
Yeah, it could be.
All right. Before we move on, folks, I do want to talk about another sponsor we have here, Football Fanatics. We're just talking about football. Are you ready for some primetime NFL action? I was this weekend. I was listening on my Westwood One app for all the gridiron glory that you crave, from jaw-dropping touchdowns to game-changing plays. Don't miss a moment of the excitement. Catch every snap, every tackle, and every victory on Westwood One. You can listen to the NFL on the NFL app, on the Westwood One Sports app, on westwoodonesports.com via Westwood One station streams, or by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports. It's the NFL, and it's on Westwood One. All right. Thank you to Westwood One. We appreciate that. Love me some NFL. As much as I get crap for it, I will never yield that.
Primarily from G Money.
G Money.
I think he just feels left out on our fantasy league.
G Money just gave me crap because I was playing Battlefield 6.
How is that, by the way?
It's not as good as Battlefield 4. I think 4 was the last one that I played, which was.
What about compared to Call of Duty?
Oh, it's way better than Call of Duty. Call of Duty is awful. Call of Duty hasn't been good since Modern Warfare 2, and that was like 2007.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty hardcore.
Dude, Call of Duty is like Fortnite, but a little more realistic. And Fortnite's fun.
You mean in terms of the multiplayer or what?
Yeah, the multiplayer. I mean, the campaign might be good, but I never play campaigns. I'm not
really. Oh man, the stories I think are so cool.
I've been saying, man, I think we got to get a Badlands like gaming stream going, like maybe in the downtime. Not that we have much of that. All right, let's jump into this story here. Just the News is hitting the Biden Ukraine thing again, and I'm still wondering, like, when is John going to get the recognition for his Vadim Pozarski and the Blue Star Strategies take on this? From Just the News, Joe Biden's team blocks CIA from distributing report on Sun Hunter's Ukraine business dealings. So when I saw this morning, Chris, I was like, oh, we got some more declassed CIA docs on Ukraine and Hunter Biden. But no, it's the same document from last week. They just are stretching out another story with it. It says Joe Biden's team intervened in February 2016 to prevent the CIA from disseminating an intelligence report to policymakers about the perceptions that senior Ukrainian officials held about his son's business dealings, according to newly declassified memos. And that was like literally the only new kind of take on that. It's interesting. I wrote an article. I didn't get to cover this, but it was, based on, a conversation John and I had on Daily back in the day, and some of the research that he did into the Hunter Biden laptop emails. And, we talked about this last week, so I'm not going to rehash it, but like, why isn't any mainstream media outlet drawing this comparison yet? Like, Joe Biden went over there. You had Poroshenko and his administration saying that Joe Biden gave a run-of-the-mill, milquetoast, boring, generic speech, and that was it. We didn't get anything substantive out of his visit over there. Because we know, if you actually look at, the Hunter emails that John uncovered, or that I don't even know if he was the first. I think he was. It was part of a contract. It was a contract that Hunter Biden had with Burisma to bring over a top U.S. elected official, a U.S. political figure, and have them, basically advocate on behalf of Zlochevsky, the CEO of Burisma at the time. This is one of the biggest and most easily provable, corruption, fraud, whatever you want to call it, bribery, foreign agents. Like, there's registration. There's all sorts of avenues that they could go after this, and nobody's touching it except John, Badlands, and Gateway, because I'm writing about it. Yeah.
I mean, the Hunter Biden thing and the Joe Biden thing, that's been unraveling in kind of the same way in these rerun cycles now for 5 years. So yeah, who knows where that thing ends? I mean, I was talking about this last night with Burning Bright, actually. The idea of Joe Biden as a fall guy, I would suspect that this being put out there, like they are happy to sacrifice Joe Biden and Hunter Biden at this point in order to protect everybody else who was involved in Ukraine. And we're talking everyone from Nancy Pelosi to Mitt Romney to Hillary Clinton to Barack Obama, and the list goes on and on. John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Amy Klobuchar over there in 2014. I mean, there's a lot of people implicated in Ukraine corruption. So if the regime is able to put this all on Biden and have him be the one that takes the fall for all of it, that is a huge win on their part.
Yeah. Again, maybe they're waiting until these pardons are officially challenged and, gone by the wayside. You don't want to, lay your hands on the table until the other person's called the bet. Maybe I don't know if that's the logic behind it, but whatever it might be, I think Fox News. Yeah, I remember this. So after I wrote the story on the contract in the first place, like 2 months later, Fox News came out with an exclusive that they were the first outlet to uncover that contract, the negotiations from that contract. It was laughable, but yeah, nothing's gone on with it since. On that note, I do one more story. Just the news was ripping this morning. Key chairman, also I had a weekend worth of news that I could go through. Key chairman in Congress wants to declassify evidence in the suspect Ukraine impeachment case 6 years after Democrats pursued the impeachment case over a call that Trump, the perfect call, right? Trump and Zelensky. Many of the allegations have crumbled in the face of the convictions and pardons of Hunter Biden and new evidence uncovered by Congress from the FBI. Quote, declassify everything. Let's be transparent. Let's release all the documents, said House Oversight Chairman James Comer. The American people need to see the truth, the true reality of what was going on. The Democrats colluded with the liberal media, who were in cahoots with the deep state government agencies to try to create false narratives that Trump did something wrong, that he was trying to dig up something untrue about the Biden family when it was very true and it was very serious. The Democrat-led impeachment efforts against Trump in 2019 were prompted by a complaint filed within the intelligence community inspector general by an unnamed CIA officer who claimed that Trump used the Zelensky call to pressure Ukraine to lead the investigation to investigate allegations the Biden family had a corrupt relationship with Burisma Holdings and that Trump tried to tie U.S. foreign aid to that request, although the transcripts of the call eventually were released and showed that Trump did not tie U.S. aid to that request. House Democrats proceeded to impeach Trump anyways before the Senate acquitted him. I feel like it's imminent at this point. That's another Solomon article, right? You've got 3 Solomon articles on Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and Ukraine in the last week. 2 of them, kind of like rehashes. And then this one here, another rehash. I think it's imminent at this point. Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Am I taking too much hopium? Am I standing on the rug?
I don't know, man. It's all right to like put your toe on a rug out of hope, but you just keep most of your 2 feet off the rug so that even if it's pulled, you're not falling over.
All right. Well, what was the last one? What was the last rug that actually turned out to be? Oh, the Comey indictment. The Comey indictment.
You feel rugged by the Comey indictment already?
No. I wasn't going to be rugged.
Oh,
by
the one that you
was like,
yeah.
So, but now, just to remind me, I keep this on my desk. It's like my little prize newspaper. Haven't bought one of those in.
You could use that newspaper as a rug, if it ever comes needed.
Well, Comey's challenging that indictment now. We'll get into that story in a second, but I want to talk about this one here from Reuters. U.S. intelligence helps Ukraine target Russian energy infrastructure, Financial Times reports. Reuters is now the Mockingbird Reuters is now reporting on the Mockingbird Financial Times. And I think this article is fascinating because the only thing in here that you can actually put a name to the claims nothing of the sort of what they're claiming. It says the U.S. has been helping Ukraine mount long-range strikes on Russian energy facilities for months in a joint effort to weaken the economy and force Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table, according to the Financial Times. Okay. Quote, the supply and use of the entire infrastructure of NATO and the United States to collect and transfer intelligence to Ukrainians is obvious, says Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. The Foreign Times said that the U.S. intelligence helps Kyiv shape routine planning, altitude, timing, and mission decisions, enabling Ukraine's long-range, one-way attack drones to evade Russian air defenses. Ukraine selected the targets for long-range strikes, and Washington then provided the intelligence on the site's vulnerabilities. I mean, I think we kind of knew that was going on like the whole entire time. Why they're bringing this up like it's some new revelation. I mean, Peskov said it himself. He said, like, yeah, we've known this. Like, it's like they're trying to poke the bear, but the bear's already been poked and he doesn't care anymore about it, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So jump down to the bottom, and it says here, Zelensky said on Saturday he had discussed Russian attacks on the Ukrainian energy system in a, quote, positive and productive call with U.S. President Donald Trump. Quote, we discussed opportunities to bolster our air defense as well as concrete agreements that we are working on to ensure this. There are good options and solid ideas on how to truly strengthen us, apparently. What's your take on the Russia thing, man? Like, they're trying so hard to make it a thing again.
Well, they're trying to extend the war narratives out, because the longer the war narratives extend, the worse it is for the people on the wrong side of those war narratives. If you want to destroy the public perception of Israel, it's a great idea to like stage the paragliding go-kart incident and then have 2 years of war and genocide narratives where the influence of the Israeli government and the Israeli lobby on the U.S. government is displayed to the world. The influence in geopolitics, the influence in intel collection and manipulation, and all the rest of it. And over the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years with the Ukraine thing, over the last 2 years with the Israel thing, we've watched two of the global regime's key proxy states be totally discredited in the minds of the public. And so that's what I think all of this is about. The longer they keep these conflicts going, at least in the story sense, the worse it gets for that side. And so I think that's why they're continuing. And I'll just say, you know, I put this up to share in whatever. Now I've brought it up myself, so who cares? But these are the news organizations that refuse to sign the DOD memo from Pete Hegseth, letting them know the new rules basically about not committing espionage. And Financial Times and Reuters are right there. And then all of the cable news networks joined all of these mainstream media outlets, including Fox News. And I think it's great that they made that One America News bowed out of this, because otherwise it would just be the whole media is against this. This is really a thing about press freedom and the rest of it. The fact that there's people abstaining from that effort kind of shows that's not really what it's about. And it's amazing to see all of these media organizations that are supposedly representative of different ideologies all coming together and agreeing we need our access to all of the Pentagon. We can name unnamed officials, or we can say unnamed officials all day long. We can get this private and classified intel and release it to the public. I mean, all of that is legitimately espionage. And the effort to stop that is being opposed by these press outlets.
I love that, man. I absolutely love that. I hadn't seen that list.
Oh, wow.
before.
Yeah.
That was the first time seeing that list.
Yeah. And then the cable news networks that weren't on that list, they added themselves onto it yesterday.
That's interesting. Let's stay on the drone story for a second here. The Telegraph, speaking of intelligence mockingbird outlets, Mexican and Colombian drug cartels infiltrate Ukrainian military. I have no idea why they're putting this story out there. It's interesting to say the least, especially the way it's written. It's a novel here, hidden in a derelict Derelict. We're going with the Zoolander version. Hidden in a derelict factory in Western Ukraine, the Kill House Academy is a Top Gun school for the drone warfare era. Decked out. We need a Tom Cruise Maverick in here. Yeah. Decked out with an obstacle course of hoops and window frames to practice flying drones, which could be like any construction site anywhere. It has trained some of the country's best UAV pilots. Among the more promising recent recruits was a pilot with the call sign Aguila 7, a former Special Forces soldier from Mexico enlisted with Ukraine's International Legion. But while he excelled at the course, it seemed he had foes other than Russian soldiers in his sights. Eagle 7 was in fact a foot soldier in Mexico's feared Los Zetas drug cartel and had been sent there to learn drone skills for use in drug wars back home. His presence, along with that of several other suspected gang members, emerged after Mexican intelligence officials tipped off their Ukrainian counterparts in July. Last week, footage emerged for the first time of Sinaloa cartel sicarios, or hitmen, brandishing a new fiber optic FPV drone, first-person drone, a model pioneered in Ukraine that is controlled by cable rather than radio signal to evade jamming devices. I'm confused about that one. Mm-hmm. So are these guys like sitting there with a mile of cable attached to the drone to relay signal to it?
Like the old school remote control cars?
Yeah, remember those? They only went forward, and in order to turn, you had to go in reverse.
Yeah, some of them were connected by wire, and then finally you got the radio signal to do it. Yeah, maybe it's like that.
A tow missile. When we were in the Marine Corps, we had a tow missile. Not a tow, a saber, which is a tow essentially. You shoot it, and then you fly it with a joystick, and there's cable that runs out to the target. The only problem is if any obstacle was in your way, the cable's rendered useless. This is interesting. Okay, so they're flying drones now that are attached by miles of cable or just a couple hundred feet, which makes them have to be on site to deploy the drone. It says it would not be hard for cartel members to blend in these days in Ukraine, as the International Legion is increasingly relying on Latin American recruits. Most are from Colombia, where a large number of former security personnel have found themselves jobless in the wake of the landmark 2016 peace deal with the FARC. I have exhaustion on the Ukraine story, and now we have the cartels training in Ukraine to come over here and bomb us with drones. Is that what they're implying?
Maybe, but I think, we were talking about the Antifa thing before with Scott Bessent and figuring out the funding and organization networks behind these domestic terrorist groups and international terrorist groups. And it might be that they're all the same thing. And, you talk about Ukrainian Nazis trained by the CIA, for instance, as was reported in mainstream media outlets, by the way. You talk about organizations like that, talk about intel organization and funding, directing funding maybe from elsewhere into these terrorist groups, into these cartels. And then it all starts really looking like part of the same thing, this global destabilization force that can be deployed in any country around the world, depending on what the ground conditions are in that country. Like here, the drug cartels hanging people in the streets might not be effective, but Black Lives Matter, Antifa going around and threatening people and influencing politics, maybe that's the better strategy. But all of this is part of that same color revolution playbook to destabilize nations, infiltrate, and take them over. So is it all part of the same thing? I think we could see that.
I wonder how much we've given, NATO countries have given to Ukraine in terms of funding and everything else. I wonder how much of that funding now is being used for this International Legion, which we now know is funding terrorist organizations. The cartels are dubbed foreign terrorist and national, crime syndicates at this point by the Trump administration. I wonder what that could do for the Ukraine funding if they're allowing that funding to, kind of seep down to that level where Ukraine is now funding foreign terrorists that have been declared by President Trump, and they're using our money, NATO money, to do that. That could be a deal breaker for the United States doing this. Or are we going to overlook that because it's beneficial to, allegedly our goal? I mean, President Trump is kind of posturing that he's in favor of Ukraine at the moment. That political wind hopefully will shift back in the direction that we believe it's going to go. But pretty interesting to think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could just be part of a large story to let the world know that these things are linked and that these terrorist organizations are present even in the countries that they like so much.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into this next story here. I thought this was a fascinating clip considering the segment I did yesterday on this, because President Trump pretty much just reiterated the clip that I played yesterday morning, going back to his October Joe Rogan interview. This was President Trump asking about the Alyssa Farah Griffin, my quote unquote white hat, who I believe to be a white hat on the View panel, at least, the kind of source there for President Trump. Check this out.
Alyssa Farah, she is one of the hosts on ABC's show, The View. She said a while back, I'll quote, "If Trump gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on this show and say thank you for doing it." Your response?
Well, did she put the hat on?
Well, she hasn't got the hat yet.
Who is it? Which one?
Alyssa Farah.
Well, she used to work for me. So she used to work here. I'll tell you about Alyssa. She worked here. She gave me the most beautiful letter when, the administration, the time came up, the election was rigged. I left. She gave me the most beautiful letter you've ever seen. I was a great president. What a great job. Some of the letters have been quoted. This is Alyssa, who I never thought was very outstanding. I figured she would not make it. And she didn't have a big role here either. And then we had January 6th, and she left after that or before that. But she gave me the most beautiful letters. And then even months after she left, and while we weren't here any longer, she sent another letter, glowing letter, beautiful letter. And then she got hired by The View, and they gave her a couple of bucks, and she changed her view very quickly. I never thought she'd make it. Never thought she had what it took in any way. You know what that means. But she's on The View. But it just shows what a fraud The View is, because this woman gave me letters and statements. She said I was the greatest president in her lifetime. Now, she's not that old, so I didn't consider it a great compliment, but I've had better.
Can we send her a hat?
Well, recently I've had the greatest president of them all. I like that much better.
So I thought that was really interesting, because I posted the Rogan clip yesterday, and he goes a little bit further in the Rogan clip, but he goes further here as well. In the Rogan clip, he goes further, saying that, people come to me and say, hey, I'm going to have to go on this platform and say bad things about you. And he says, do it. Right. By the same token, he's going to, I got a feeling he says, do it, but just know that I'm going to have to say bad things about you too, because you're going to say bad things about me. I'm going to respond, just, kind of alligator skin, right? Let it, or let it roll off. But I never heard the part there. And I, back in the day, I did a little bit of digging on this. I never heard the part about her sending a follow-up letter and also her leaving before J6, which was interesting as well.
Yeah.
So I want to take this opportunity. We're going to talk about our next sponsor here. And let me go ahead and get this pulled up, because I'm going to do a live. I'm going to show you what I did yesterday with this application here. And why is it not pulling up? Oh, there it is. Okay, so there we go. So let's go ahead and talk about our next sponsor for today, which is Comet from Perplexity. Let me ask you guys, how much time do you spend every day on your web browser? How much time do you spend clicking around online, searching, scrolling, typing, endless tabs? It's a lot, right? Well, there's a new AI web browser from Perplexity called Comet that is completely changing the way that you are able to interact with your browser. Using Comet feels like having a personal assistant in your web browser that can actually do things for you across the internet. Yes, do things, not just give you answers. You can ask Comet to handle tasks for you, and it literally clicks, types, searches, and scrolls for you, just like you would get things done for you in the background while you go about your day. Comet can shop for you. It can make reservations. It can book travel, summarize articles or videos, send emails, schedule meetings, and a lot more to make your life easier. And let me go ahead and show you. I'll do this little demonstration here. We will pull up the Comet link right here. I still have the IPAC article I was referring to yesterday on the show. So let's ask it. It's over here on the right-hand side. Let's ask it, can you pull up the document that claims Alyssa Farah Griffin was the middleman in the Cheney/Hutchinson J6 investigation? And can you scroll down to the part where it shows any text messages or quotes? And boom, did it. My hands are up here. It should do all of this while I'm doing other things in the background. I could be scrolling around, doing whatever. It's doing its research. And it's got me the summary. Hold on. Can you open that document in a separate tab, please? I love how I say please, like I'm actually polite to it. And there you go. It opens up the document, Committee on House Administration, and there it is. The document that talks about Alyssa Farah Griffin being the middleman for Liz Cheney as she what was she doing? Oh yeah, she was encouraging Cassidy Hutchinson to get rid of her attorney on behalf of Liz Cheney, and then came back and told everybody that President Trump choked out the Secret Service and was kung fu fighting in the front of the beast. I love
that was hilarious, and it made the January 6th committee look like the joke that it is.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's get back into this. Pretty cool, right? You can download Perplexity's new AI web browser Comet by heading to pplx.ai/badlands and let your browser work for you. Plus, right now, when you download Comet, you get a month of Rumble Premium for free. That's pplx.ai/badlands. Go now and take back your time online. I absolutely love that browser, man. It's so much fun to just like sit back and watch it do its work. I'm doing my thing in the background. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next story for the day. We're almost done. It's going by pretty quick today. Here we go. From the New York Times, another hilarious article right here. U.S. attorney was forced out after clashes over how to handle the Russia inquiry. This is insane. So I did not ask Comet, but I did ask Perplexity just real quick. Has the New York Times ever written an article claiming it was malicious prosecution or unwarranted or unsupported prosecution about any of the lawfare waged against President Trump, the J6ers, his supporters, the fake electors, the Hawks, remember the FACE Act, the Planned FACE Act, or anyone else prosecuted by the Biden DOJ? The New York Times has not published any article explicitly stating that any DOJ prosecutions against Trump and the list of people were malicious prosecutions or categorically unwarranted or unsupported. Instead, their coverage consistently describes these legal actions in terms of the government's rationale, defense arguments, and typical political and legal controversy language, sometimes quoting critics who use words like politically motivated. That's as far as they went. Now let's read the New York Times when it comes to Trump and the Russia inquiry. Career prosecutors, tip number one, career prosecutors at the DOJ, probably pretty swampy. Career prosecutors at the Justice Department do not believe criminal charges are warranted from an investigation seeking to discredit an earlier FBI inquiry into Russia's attempt to tilt the 2016 election in President Trump's favor, according to people familiar with the matter. It leaves unclear what political appointees at the Justice Department might do, given the breadth of Mr. Trump's demands that it pursues people he perceives as enemies. Already, the U.S. Attorney in the Western District of Virginia overseeing the case, Todd Gilbert, was forced to resign in August because he refused to sideline a high-ranking career prosecutor who found the evidence flimsy, according to people familiar with the matter. Gilbert, a longtime Republican legislator in Virginia, they always throw that in there as the qualifier, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you see how bad President Trump is? Even Republicans are going against him.
Mm-hmm. And all they have to find is one.
Yep. One Republican. You need your one Kinzinger, your one Liz Cheney, your one Denver Riggleman.
Yep. And then they say that Republican is as conservative as can be, a rock-ribbed conservative. It's always the same bullshit.
Gilbert was ordered to take up a case after they learned that the classified documents that we were referring to had been found inside burn bags at FBI headquarters. I mean, that seems like a logical case to be taken up. For decades, classified documents have been retained on computer servers. When printouts are made of sensitive documents, officials often dispose of them by burning the papers as a security measure. Patel and Bongino pressed for an investigation to determine whether senior FBI officials at the time had conspired to protect former FBI and CIA officials by hiding or destroying such documents. There have been a number. Well, let me stop right there for a second. I don't know this to be the fact, but I'm assuming that the reason they're opening an investigation into these documents that were found in the burn bag is because they don't exist on the servers anymore.
That's interesting.
Isn't that the logical thing to assume here?
Could be.
I mean, so it sounds to me like these documents that we're getting, somebody deleted them to try and cover their tracks, and they just forgot to also burn the burn bag, almost like there was, some white hats, or I hate the term white hats, but you know what I'm saying?
It could be.
Some people.
Yeah. I mean, or these documents were just held back for whatever reason, and the burn bag story is a total cover story for bringing these things back into the light when they were, maybe, as you said, not on the servers for the last few years.
It could be. I mean, I mean, you would think. So we always talk about how the Epstein files have been in the Southern District of New York for all this time, and you would think that if they were as bad as people are alluding to, that they would disappear, right? This is when we talk about, like, for the election example, for the election, for example, we talk about that as if, these people are just going to hand over evidence, the ballots in Georgia, right? They're just going to hand them over. No, this is life or death for a lot of these people that have been doing this for years to get Trump. And now all of a sudden there's people actually turning over these rocks to see what's underneath them, but they've already deleted everything under the rock until you dig a little deeper and see that there's remaining traces of what was actually deleted. I don't know. That's just my take on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could be right.
It says there have been a number of unusual facets to the investigation. Federal prosecutors in Western Virginia, rather than in Washington, were assigned the document investigation on the legal theory that jurisdiction was there because the FBI has a classified document storage facility in Winchester, which is in part of that state. There's also been little indication of any grand jury activity, though a host of former FBI officials voluntarily sat for interviews. Witnesses were questioned by a combination of civil lawyers, not criminal prosecutors, from the Western District, as well as criminal prosecutors from the neighboring Eastern District and FBI agents. Witnesses were allowed to be interviewed at their lawyers' offices rather than at government buildings. Now, again, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Why would they bring this case in the Western District of Virginia instead of the Eastern District of Virginia?
Yeah.
I think so. Again, just as my personal opinion on this, and Gordon and I have talked about this, the Eastern District is right in the middle of just the swampiest of the swampiest. And you got to imagine that, there wasn't Comey's daughter's husband in the Eastern District of Virginia?
That's too many jumps for me. I know that Comey's daughter, wasn't she in New York? So
Southern District of New York.
Oh yeah, and we talked about them driving back and forth to see each other.
Yeah, like did they work remotely? But I don't know. The last portion of this article: career prosecutors viewed a possible mortgage fraud case against Ms. James as fatally flawed and weak. They also considered the investigation into whether Mr. Comey had lied in testifying to Congress in 2020 as unworthy of charges. So again, I just more propaganda from New York Times, who, by the way, might be complicit in this as well, in their actions in this. So this is literally like getting the side of the story from somebody that has a direct interest in the outcomes of these cases and these investigations. And we're supposed to take their time for their word for it as the New York Times, the trusted source, that they're going to give us, the accurate reporting on all this. No one's above the law, right? That's the bottom line. And so,
yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's amazing that so many of these different districts have these same corruption problems in them. That is what you would expect from a deep state, deeply embedded, not only in the federal government at the seat of power, but all around the country in all of its many branches. So I think that this game is being played like on many different battlefields, and we can see the same kinds of patterns emerging again and again.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just getting this pulled up. Here's the next. Speaking of Comey, from Axios, Comey asks court to reject Trump's hand-picked prosecutor.
It's always hand-picked when they don't like it, but he's the guy who chooses.
You would hope that it's hand-picked. I mean, then again,
be handpicked.
Then again, coming off the Biden administration, nothing was handpicked by Biden except his nose. Comey is challenging the legality of President Trump's appointment of his personal attorney, Lindsay Halligan, as U.S. attorney. I love this is my favorite part right here. The move tests if Trump's political retribution campaign, carried out by appointing loyalist prosecutors, will hold up in a court of law. Comey's filing warns the court to prepare for an out-of-district judge to hear his motion. What does that mean? I didn't get to go deeper on this because of the time constraint in the morning, but Comey's filing warns the court to prepare for an out-of-district judge to hear the motion. Do you remember the change of venue request from all the J6ers to get out of the 98% or 97% blue district of Washington, D.C.? And every single one of them was, carte blanche, just across the board denied. And now you have Comey telling a court that, hey, you're not going to hear this motion, and out of district judges. Maybe we're going to go to DC and get a judge from there to hear this, or we're going to judge shop until we find somebody that says that President Trump does not have the authority to appoint who he wants to the U.S. Attorney's office with the consent and advice of the Senate, who's out of session right now. But this is weird to me, man.
Have you looked into who's representing James Comey?
I think it's Lowell, isn't it? Abbe Lowell? I think so.
Let me find out. That would be interesting if it was Abbe Lowell, because he seems to be the attorney handling many of these kind of PSYOP-oriented political cases. Comey, according to ChatGPT, is represented by Patrick Fitzgerald.
Yes, and Jessica Carmichael.
Okay.
Fitzgerald, a former U.S. attorney known for prosecuting high-profile federal cases, including the Valerie Plame leak investigation, has taken the lead role as Comey's principal defense attorney, while Carmichael, a Virginia-based criminal defense lawyer, is co-counsel.
Got to wonder how much influence the attorneys are having in these machinations of, venue and judge shopping and whatever.
I think Lowell was just the lucky guess because he's representing like everybody else that's involved in President Trump here. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what that means. The whole we're going to tell you that an out-of-district judge is going to hear your motion. I maybe that's normal, and I've just never heard of it before, but that's kind of strange to me. All right, moving on. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement put this out. ICE officers joined the Oklahoma Highway Patrol for a 3-day special emphasis operation to disrupt criminal activity and threats to public safety along I-40 in western Oklahoma. Out of approximately 520 contacts, that resulted in 120 illegal aliens taken into custody for immigration violations, 91 of which were operating a commercial motor vehicle with a CDL, a commercial driver's license, and 27 were arrested in passenger vehicles. 2 were arrested for a nearby marijuana grow operation. Darn. Now here's the interesting part. So, well, it says criminal activity associated with 120 included multiple DUIs, illegal reentry, money laundering, human smuggling, assault, conspiracy to distribute cocaine, possession of controlled dangerous substance. Here's where it gets really interesting, Chris. Where do you think most of these immigrants were from?
I have not the slightest idea.
If I gave you 5 guesses, you would not have guessed. I don't think you would have gotten one of the top.
Oh, wow.
Countries. Countries of citizenship. China 12. You might have gotten that one.
No,
India.
I wouldn't have, I promise.
India 39.
Uh-huh.
Georgia 6. That's notable. Uzbekistan 13. Wow. I mean, I never in a million years would have guessed. China is probably the only one that I would have guessed is China. So I just want to point that out. Keep it up to DHS, man. Got to play this clip. This was a judge ruled, a district judge. So in other words, it's going to go to appeals and they're going to either overturn it or it's going to go to SCOTUS and get overturned because this is absurd. A judge ruling that the federal ICE detention center has to remove protective fencing around their property. Just think of J6, right? We built fences all around the Capitol. Washington, D.C. pretty much was completely and totally fenced in to protect the Democrats in Congress from the dangerous J6 insurrectionists during the inauguration, not J6. Listen to the propaganda and the absolute utter bullshit coming out of this piece right here.
Officials in Broadview, Illinois are demanding federal authorities remove the additional fencing around the ICE facility immediately. This comes after a federal judge ordered the barrier brought down by midnight local time Tuesday night. Senior correspondent Mike Tobin is in Broadview again tonight.
Violent weekend clashes surrounding the ICE processing facility in Broadview, Illinois, resulted in 22 arrests. This as a U.S. district judge rules that the fence put up as demonstrations grew needs to come down by midnight Tuesday. The judge says it is on municipal land and blocks emergency vehicles. Comparing the fence to the Berlin Wall, the Democratic Illinois House Speaker channeled Ronald Reagan.
Mr. Trump, tear down this fence now.
Illinois Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy and former Congressman Luis Gutierrez marched up to the fence.
We demand that I be able to access this facility.
Well, I understand your request, but at this point, I can't authorize that visit.
What about the argument that ICE and Border Patrol are simply enforcing the laws that Congress writes?
We passed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, and tens of thousands of people were brutalized during the Civil Rights Act, so we could be judged on the content of our character, not the color of our skin.
People are being stopped and detained merely because of the way they look. That is illegal. That's unconstitutional.
Meantime, 200 Texas National Guardsmen are stuck on a base in a Chicago suburb. A federal appeals court ruled that the Trump administration has the authority to federalize the Guardsmen, but not to deploy them in a state against the wishes of the governor. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is urging Texas Governor Greg Abbott to bring his troops home.
He ought to get them the heck out of Illinois and send them back so they can protect the state of Texas instead of invading our state.
If that's an invasion, why isn't J.B. Pritzker repelling that invasion on his own as the governor of the state? That's his job.
That's a great question. I had said, Pritzker, when the Texas Guard was steaming towards Illinois, Pritzker turned around and mandated or ordered the National Guard of Illinois to a mandatory training operation that I believed was to be, that could have been kind of the showdown. Nothing ended up coming of it, thankfully. But yeah, great point. Like, why doesn't JB just expel them, right?
If it is an invasion, and if it's not an invasion, stop saying it's an invasion.
Bingo. It's not an invasion. I mean, so a judge ruled, and I'm not clear in the ruling. I more played this clip for its comic value. That was absolutely hilarious. They invoked Martin Luther King Jr. They invoked Ronald Reagan. They're just invoking everybody. Like they don't have an original thought, so they take historical context, historical quotes, and just stretch them to fit their context, applicable today. It's hilarious. I thought that was one of the funniest clips I've seen in a long time right there. But to your point, so the judge rules that Trump can federalize the National Guard, but he can't deploy them. Like,
can't deploy them against the wishes of the state governor.
That's federalization. Otherwise, it would just be the governor that's in control of them.
Well, wouldn't the federalization part be when the commander-in-chief takes over the state's militia rather than the governor of that state? So, I think that it's just he can't deploy them into another state without that governor's permission. That's how I read it.
Interesting. I don't know. I still think we're going to see the Insurrection Act very shortly.
Miles Taylor was just on MSNBC the other day with Nicole Wallace talking about that. Did you see that?
No, I
sent
did
it
not.
over to John. I feel like he might play it tonight on Devolution, so I'm not trying to steal his thunder or anything. But here's that link. I just sent it over in the StreamYard chat.
We talked about it a week ago. We actually did a pretty, like, I went through the Brennan Center and actually clipped use them as the citations on this about how Trump would absolutely be legally permissible to.
Oh, wow.
It's not just that. And I kind of ended that segment by saying that, Trump should absolutely use the Insurrection Act if he feels it's necessary. And I think we're getting to the point where it might be, but he should absolutely use it. However, once it's used, I mean, we need to kind of put some guardrails on the Insurrection Act in terms, at the very least, of defining some of the things that he's allowed, that the president, not he, like, we need to define what an insurrection is. We need to define what an insurgency is, an invasion. Like, there's certain things, there's no definitions. And so Brennan Center, even before all of this, the shit show of the Joe Biden invasion, even they were like, yeah, there's really no limit to what the president can do. He can call anything an invasion at this point. And that was before all this.
Yeah, but the president should be the one who is tasked with determining an invasion.
Agreed. Yeah. But so I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, and I don't know if I could come up with one. So there's, when people think of the Insurrection Act, you're thinking of millions of illegals coming across our border, right? But previously, the Insurrection Act was used, to break down to enforce the civil rights law and the Brown versus Board of Education and allow segregation or desegregation of schools. It was used for that. It's been used for, little rebellions and uprisings and stuff like that. That's more what I'm talking about, not this, invasion. I mean, he's already ruled that Tren de Aragua and these other cartels and gangs are foreign terrorist organizations. So until somebody challenges that, as long as we have evidence that they crossed our border, the Insurrection Act should be justified. So I don't know. Let me play this clip. And I don't want to steal any of John's thunder. So I'm just going to play the clip and maybe a quick comment.
How obsessed is Trump with Chicago, in part because it is President Obama's hometown?
Oh, I think massively. I mean, look, but you also can't overstate how much his lieutenants, like Stephen Miller and others, are aware of Chicago's history. Now Donald Trump isn't a student of history, let alone has ever even cracked a history book open. But the people around him know that Chicago's got a history of protest. Chicago has a history of riots, and they're looking for cities where they can create unrest. Now, Nicole, I'll go.
All right, we'll stop there. I already know where he's going with this. He's doing the same thing in Memphis, dude.
Yeah,
That's the state.
There's the part of that clip I think is particularly interesting is where he talks about how Donald Trump was essentially ready to invoke the Insurrection Act in 2019 and then was like talked out of it. He was going to present it in the State of the Union or something.
Mm-hmm. All right. We are almost done. I got two quick stories I want to cover. I thought this was kind of interesting. The Mitt Romney brother-in-law or brother's wife that he was getting divorced from falling to her death, 5 stories. New York Post reports now that Romney's brother was trying to make sure that his estranged wife got nothing in the divorce that they were going through. Mitt Romney's brother filed for divorce just 4 months before his estranged wife plunged to her death from a California parking garage. George Scott Romney, 81, filed the case against his 64-year-old Carrie Elizabeth Romney in June, citing irreconcilable differences. 81, dude. Why are you divorcing your wife at 81? Like, you're going to go out there and get some, I don't know. We'll leave that to the imagination. Carrie's body was found at the base of the parking garage Friday night in Valencia. Investigators are still looking into whether she jumped or accidentally fell. God. How do you accidentally fall off a 5-story parking garage?
How are you even near the edge?
LA County medical examiners listing the cause of death as deferred. No foul play is suspected, cops said. Despite dating as far back as 2012, Romney claimed in his filing that they had shared no property for the court to divide. They apparently lived together at a $725,000 Valencia condo, where neighbors said Carrie had been staying not long before her death. Jump down here. I thought I had highlighted another part down here. I thought I did. Hold on. There was something important down here. Maybe not. Okay, maybe not. I just think that's kind of weird.
That's very weird.
You're going through a rough divorce from an 81-year-old and you fall off a 5-story parking garage.
Yeah. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Southern California. Valencia is not far from Los Angeles at all. I'm not saying I know this particular parking structure, but none of the parking structures I was ever on in Los Angeles, and there are many of them, none of them ever would be the sort of thing where you could just walk up to the edge and fall off. It's insane.
As much regulation as there is in California, I'm pretty sure they're going to have like walls on 5-story buildings.
Yeah. I don't know if you ran toward the edge, if you could actually fall off.
It reminds me of in the Titanic at the very end when she's standing on the bow and she drops the heart of the sea or whatever it is, the jewel into the ocean. And she's like, oops. And I'm like, that wasn't an oops. You did that on purpose. It's kind of what it reminds me of. All right. From Fox News, Doritos getting a bold makeover with ingredient change plus a protein option. Doritos will no longer be made with artificial flavors or colors. Maha, baby. PepsiCo will be removing artificial flavors and colors from its products. So I'm hoping this is beyond just Doritos. Do you remember when Pepsi had clear Pepsi?
Yep.
You're older than me, right? Yeah, you're older than me.
Yeah.
So you remember clear Pepsi? That was the craziest thing.
I remember New Coke.
Yeah. Like it's almost like they were trying Maha back in, what was it? Maybe like the mid 90s.
Well, yeah. And then, of course, all they do is change what the words mean. And they're like, we got rid of the artificial flavors. Now they're called natural flavors.
PepsiCo will be removing artificial flavors and colors from its product. The company announced HHS is looking to get rid of red 40, yellow 5, and yellow number 6. Doritos Nacho Cheese has all 3 of those artificial colors, while Cheetos contains yellow number 6. My favorite part is down here. Well, not yet. Artificial food colorings were originally manufactured from coal tar, with most synthetic food dyes today made from petroleum or crude oil. A new line of Doritos will also be introduced that are protein packed, which is probably going to be bullshit as well. But this is my favorite part. PepsiCo also shared it will be expanding the use of avocado and olive oil in select products. The company said all of its core Lay's products in the U.S. will be made without artificial flavors or colors from artificial sources by the end of 2025. There it is, from artificial sources, like Chris said, natural flavors.
Yeah.
That are artificial sources from natural whatever. And then I just want to play this real quick. No need for comment. This is hilarious. Have you seen this clip yet? This woman.
I don't think that I have. No.
This woman's going around. She's a former administrative judge. She's going around campaigning, and she lets slip how they really feel about MAGA. And I love this clip so much. It's just hilarious.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
My name is Sarah MacArthur. I'm running for the school board. Oh, those are so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you.
I'm sorry. I didn't
No,
realize
that's
you
all
were
right.
on the phone.
That's all right.
Anyway, I'm a veteran and I'm a former administrative law judge. So just recently retired like 5 years ago. So I have time now to be a school board. I've never been on the school board before, but I'm sure I can handle it.
Okay. All right. Do you have anything to do with the emerge groups?
Oh, how do you know about emerge?
Because I ran for state representative in Tracy Valley.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I do. I actually sent Alicia.
Okay.
Alicia up there.
All right. That's all right then. Thank you.
This is a nonpartisan race.
I will.
Yeah. But you're not interested in.
No, I'll vote for the moment. Thank you.
Okay.
We don't want emerge candidates in New Mexico. Thank you.
Well, we don't want MAGA faggots either. Did you say faggots? Because I got it on camera. Good, I'm glad. See you on Facebook.
So for those that may not have heard, she goes up there trying to, get on the school board. She turns out to be a pretty lefty administrative judge, which is, again, a made up thing. There's no such thing as administrative courts, but I digress. And she asked about emerge and whether she's familiar with it. And she says, oh, you know about emerge? And she's like, yeah, we don't want emerge around here. And she says, well, you don't want MAGA faggots around here either. Oh, I love it. All right. Let's jump into you. I mean, you can.
You just gotta appreciate the political incorrectness from these people. Good job.
I know, man. It's pretty awesome.
Use your words.
Hey, I love it, man. If they want to say, fag, I think fag is acceptable. I think you get a little controversial if you say faggot. Like people will take that the wrong way.
It's like saying the N word with the hard R, as they call it now.
No, let's not go that far. It's what was the Kill Tony clip? I've played it before on Y Chromes where he's like, we're taking fag and retard back.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's so cool that he did that after we were getting and me in particular we're getting suspended on Twitter every 2 weeks for saying those things.
Yeah. Well, I still say them to this day. I don't care.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now it's okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to pull up the Rumble rants because I forgot to open the API, but I did not. So somebody said because it's a Can Paul Wednesday.
There you go.
And I can't remember who the heck that was. I did this last time we were on together too.
It is GG with a 2.
GG
with a person 2. It was last time.
Exactly. Every time I'm writing it down on my board right now. GG. Liberty Lion, Fox releasing a story 2 months after you is pretty good compared to normal. Usually it takes them 2 to 3 years, but credit to you, CannCon. No credit to John. That was John's story. I just wrote it in my own words and clipped it. Diggin Goo 67. I think that's how you say that. You think those people should have free space like us since they're here on a purchase weapon as well? You think those people should have free space like us since they're here on a purchase weapon? I think it's talking about the visas. I'm assuming that was the visa story. That's, I'm not going one way or the other on that. I just don't like the targeting somebody for that reason. Like you said bad things about Charlie Kirk, so we're going to revoke your visa is so childish to me.
I'm with you on that. I mean, I think that the Charlie Kirk op has kind of run its course at this point, but man, oh man, I guess
you're literally saying you hurt my feelings about something. Again, if they were saying like death to America, sure, get them the bleep out of here. If they were saying, oh, I think we should do something, not, responding to something, sure, go for it. But it is what it is. We're all entitled to our opinions. And again, maybe they're trying to, invoke a court case and get some precedent laid down on that. Who knows?
We can hope.
Chris, what you got coming up, brother?
Nada. Just DPH on Saturday, and that's about it.
Are you not doing
write something on the Substack? I haven't been doing my show now for many weeks. I'm devoted all my time to writing a book.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You told me that last week. That's right. That's right. Can't wait, man.
Yeah, it'll be exciting.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said I think it's going to be good.
Well, share your Substack. Not that people don't know where your Substack is.
Oh, there it is. I'm your moderator.substack.com.
I wish I could pull it up, but I can't. So
you don't have to.
And I'm going to do a live stream again. I'm back on YouTube, youtube.com/CannCon1 with 1 N, CANCON 1. I can't even get my old URL back. My old URL was CannCon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you search CannCon Actual, it'll come up as well. It's so ridiculous what they did on YouTube, but I'm going to do like a live stream over there just to see how it goes. So if you want to check it out, feel free. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow morning on Badlands Daily, and stay tuned. You got Shipwreck tonight. Did you see the Shipwreck Isabella, whatever it is thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my Lord. That is so funny. I think I'm going to talk about that on the YouTube show.
She's hilarious. Yeah. She's really funny.
Isabella sent her a cease and desist letter for First Amendment law from a fucking accident attorney. If you look up the law, they're like, oh, we deal with car accidents, slip and falls, bike accidents. I'm like, if I was Ship, I would have laughed my ass off and been like, I'll do this pro se. I'll do this pro se. If I want to call you a honeypot, I can call you a honeypot. You're a social media influencer. Defamation bar is ridiculously high in that case. You're out there posting pictures with, your things hanging out and go for it. If you got it, hey.
Sounds like she has a lawyer friend.
Exactly. I mean,
who probably wants to try to get it good with her.
Why would you ever want to get in good with a attractive social media influencer?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, it's hilarious. All right, so I'm going to talk about that, and we'll catch you guys later.
They say confidence starts with smooth skin. And baby, Soft Disclosure Lotion delivers.
I swear by this stuff. I kid you guys not. This is the first lotion I've ever had in my entire life that I don't get ashy after I put it on any part of my body. My hands are always dry, and my hands have not gotten ashy without rinsing them through water and washing them with soap since I started putting Soft Disclosure on. It is Black Man approved. I kid you not.
Black Man approved. You heard him. And let's be real. If it can handle his hands, it can handle anything.
Feet are they get so dry, the heels of them, it'll just kind of flake off. But with Soft Disclosure, once you put it on, it starts to absorb it.
Yeah, he went there. Don't worry, we won't show you his feet, but trust us, they're smoother too. Soft Disclosure Lotion is made with aloe, goat's milk, honey, and our exclusive oil blend that actually restores your skin barrier. Visit softdisclosure.com, use code BADLANDS, and get 15% off.